Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And I started my journey trying to dissect what is freedom. And first, I thought it was just financial, but there's all these other types. There's time, there's location, there's health, there's mental. And once I found the secret sauce, I saw people that were embodying that. So today, I'm happy to interview Danielle Matthews, and she's a renowned public speaker. She's a diamond executive, and she's talking about surviving from brain trauma. And today's going to be talking about success, growth, healing, and mindset. And I'm happy to welcome her to the show. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
We had met through Podmatch, which is a great matching service for podcast guests and hosts. So tell us more about your backstory and how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So I got to say, everything kind of changed for me when I was 23. I was at that point living a pretty normal life. I'd grown up happy, suburban lifestyle, went to university, got a degree, and I'd gone into teaching. I was doing Teach for America for a couple of years before graduate school. 2 years after I had started teaching, I was home for a summer break and was hit by a drunk driver. And my world just absolutely went upside down. And lost my health. I think when you're in your 20s, you don't anticipate losing your health. I also lost my financial independence, which was a massive shock because my whole life I had been taught how to work, to earn money, how to get a good job, to get a good paycheck and all of those things. And all of a sudden I found myself with the complete desire. I mean, I was pushing to get back to work, but was completely unable to because of the trauma to my brain. I couldn't concentrate for more than 10 minutes. I was dealing with very severe sensitivities to noise and light, migraines, and ultimately lost my job because I couldn't perform and found myself without an income, not being able to live on my own, and having to move back with my family. So I started a journey that opened up so much. Everything that you just said in that opening is what I discovered as well. I had to learn about health. I had to learn about different ways to find financial freedom and income that doesn't require, time the way that we traditionally do, and opened up a lot spiritually as well. And then delved into business once I got my health back, which was a long journey in and of itself. But, we're now 10 years on, and I look back and I just think I'm so grateful actually for that accident, Chris, because it put me on a path where I've now been able to help thousands of people with their health, with their business endeavors, with just creating freedoms financially. And it's beautiful.
Inspiring and, really powerful comeback story. And so we'll talk about, a little bit about the recovery and mind control mindset, and then we'll go into the work that you're doing. Especially you have this idea of how did you use mind control techniques or mindset to begin intentionally creating your life?
Absolutely. So it was interesting. The first year of my accident was not in a good headspace. I felt like a victim. I felt like this wasn't fair. It shouldn't have happened to me, all of these things. And I think everyone would agree, right? Being hit by a drunk driver, no one deserves that. It shouldn't happen, but here it was. And me feeling like a victim was actually putting my power outside of me. And I felt as though I had no options. I felt as though I couldn't do anything about it. And it was very disempowering. And a year into my healing, my neurologist said to me that with my type of injury, my body had done all the healing it would do, and that I needed to accept all of these limitations as my new normal and adjust life around them. And I thought to myself, there is no way. There's no way I'm going to live the rest of my life with this amount of pain, with not being able to do anything. It's not a life worth living. And I was dealing with severe depression and a lot of panic attacks, anxiety. And it just came to me, like, if I'm going to continue living, then I need to make it a happy place to live. And I actually can control that because I can choose my thoughts. I can choose to bring happiness, to bring joy, to bring gratitude to what I do have rather than focusing on what I don't have. And when I talk about mind control, this is when I really got into, okay, well, who am I? Where are these thoughts coming from? What are they seated in? Can I change them? Can I shift and put more helpful thoughts and emotions into my body? How does that all work? And thankfully, I was in a dark room by myself, because that was really all I could handle. And so I had a lot of time with myself and a lot of ability to be introspective. And I started to notice, it was as if, I noticed it first in other people, honestly, before I saw it within myself. But I noticed that people were kind of on these like loop patterns, similar situations. They get triggered in the same way. And it was like watching people wearing sunglasses, where like they were seeing through a certain lens that objectively I was looking at and going like, you're looking at this all wrong, right? This has nothing to do with you. Like they're feeling like no one's hearing my voice, no one's listening to me. And I'm like, that's not what's happening here. But it's interesting. I think many of us can find ourselves in those situations. And I started to realize I wasn't immune to it, that I was having these thoughts that were chronically coming up. Maybe in the West, we call it limiting beliefs. I study a lot of yogic philosophy, and they call them samskaras, these things that are just there that are blocking you from seeing the world as it truly is presently in front of you. And so I started to realize that, my mind was kind of projecting out these thoughts that weren't helpful. And so I started to really question, why am I reacting this way? Like anytime I got triggered by something, I would ask myself, I wouldn't get angry at the external person or circumstance. I would get introspective and I would say, why am I reacting like that? What is that root? And the more I started to ask, the more I saw these common themes. For me, I had issues with like not feeling worthy, not feeling heard. These were kind of some things that would get picked up all the time, and I would react. And so then I started going, well, that's a silly thing. Like I'm worthy of everything. I'm worthy of abundance, like all of this stuff. And I started to just, I used meditation and intention to just reset my mind. And I started to use these tools. And then I used life, honestly, as like the perfect playground to help figure out, well, what within me is needing to be adjusted? What thoughts are not serving me? What may be past trauma from my childhood or a situation I couldn't cope with at the time is maybe lingering that I need to release? And as I started to do that, I felt depression lifting. I felt my anxiety lifting. And I started to be able to be more present in the moment to what was actually in front of me. And I started to be able to control my mind to the point where I wasn't thinking about the future and causing anxiety. And I wasn't thinking about the past leading to depression. I was just totally present in the moment and focused on what can I do that will bring me joy right now. And it's interesting because I think in any spiritual practice, that's what they tell you to do. And I, because of life circumstances, this is where I found myself. And it changed everything. And as I changed that internal space, what's amazing, I think, we all talk about the law of attraction. Really secondary, the primary is the law of vibration. The vibrational state that you're holding is going to attract things of like vibration. And when I was in the victim mentality and feeling depressed and anxious, I was just drawing in all sorts of things to continue with that. When I shifted the internal space, all of a sudden the vibration I was holding, it attracted in the answer to my health challenges, a breakthrough biotech. Then my health started to change and the world opened up to me again.
Yeah, which is interesting, what you talk about. I like this idea how you use the life as a canvas, and you kind of intentionally picked and choose, and you tried to address, some of the factors, leading up to those triggers, those wounds. And then you talk about, you discover quantum healing, which is, I'm always interested in hearing new things, a quantum healing technology of redox signaling that you refer to as the greatest breakthrough of our time.
Yeah, this was what got attracted in. I mean, and it's like, you think about the quantum world, everything's energy. And so first of all, that's the vibration that attracted that in. But what they figured out, they have something called reductants and oxidants. Okay, so if we'll get into a little bit of science here. If you think about your body, you're just trillions of cells. And those cells have to communicate. And the way they communicate is through the transfer of electrons. It's through the transfer of energy. And again, we know in the quantum world, everything is energy. And our physical bodies, as we get older, we have less of these reductants and oxidants being innately produced. And so the communication within the body gets weakened. It's like there's less life force, if you will, as you get older. And you've probably noticed it. You don't repair as fast after going to the gym, or, you see an operation like a tonsillectomy, a 5-year-old gets it, they heal faster even than an 18-year-old. And this is because that vital life force, that energy, goes down with age in the physical body with these reductants and oxidants. So what this company was able to figure out how to do, and they did it by accident. And this is where I think, like some sort of divine intervention, in my opinion. So they accidentally got these molecules to stabilize, where they could have reductants and oxidants, a negatively charged particle and a positively charged one, in the same solution without interacting. They would only interact when they touched something organic. And so the scientists that were in the lab, they started to drink it, and they started to get results with health stuff they had going on. And so, on goes the story. Eventually it ends up where they figured out what they have stabilized, and that it's just replenishing what the body had before, when you were like a child. And so when people were putting it into their bodies, it was wild, Chris, because everyone was having a different result. Some of them were having results with hormone balance, all of a sudden coming, seeking the right amount. Some it was digestive issues, like 30 years of digestive issues, all of a sudden now cycling out and becoming balanced and normal again. I came across this because an acupuncturist called my mom. She had been using this in her practice, like clinically. And she said, in all of my years of acupuncture, I've never had a tool so powerful that could go in and help each client so specifically. And she said, I think it could pass the blood-brain barrier and it could help Danielle. And so that's how this entered my world. I'll be honest, I think we have expectations of things sometimes. Like I expected to just wake up one day healthy. I don't know why. I didn't expect that I was going to have to take something to help my body to heal itself. And so when this arrived, I actually missed it. I thought it sounded too good to be true. I was like, this lady's lost her mind. I've never heard of this. I ignored it for 6 months. But then both my parents said to me, Danielle, this is powerful. They both had been using it and having results that I had visually seen. My mom, having not been able to make a fist, she had bone on bone. 6 weeks later, full range of motion. My dad, 30-year-old injury to his knee from playing college football, resolved. He was not having to wear a brace. It was phenomenal. And I started to use it, and it took about 3 months, but my body was finally able. It was like enough construction workers came onto the job site that the repair could actually happen. And I started to feel better.
Interesting. As we move on to your work, what sort of spiritual lessons did you learn on this journey that have helped you to help others, find success in business, influence others, make an impact?
Sure. It's interesting because what happened with me physically, with this technology, as I started thinking, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Several things have been clear to me through that time, through that journey. I realized that tomorrow's not guaranteed. I realized that we have more power within us than any of us really understand. And I wanted to wake other people up to those things. I wanted people to be able to, first of all, get their health fully back, so that when you're healthy, you can show up with your purpose. You can actually give to the world. And I also wanted people to be able to realize, like, a 9-to-5 and the grind that everyone is in doesn't have to be the way it is. There are options. There are other things to look at. And I wanted to, be an example of that. And so, fortunately, this technology was being marketed where you could only purchase it through a rep, like the network marketing model. And I thought, okay, like, I'm not a huge fan of that model because it's done wrong by a lot of people, but when done well, makes sense. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to do this thing well. I'm going to put people ahead of, any profits. I'm going to serve, and I'm not going to worry about my own ego. And I just started to help people. And it was interesting because I realized in business, a lot of the principles that I had learned started to be able to be applied. So, for example, the sunglasses that I was telling you about, me realizing that I had my own sunglasses on allowed me to understand myself fully, and then give me so much compassion for other people. And in business, relationships are everything. And learning how to build relationships is so key. And for me, the spiritual principle of realizing, look, we are more than our thoughts, and sometimes our thoughts are blocking us, I started to apply in my work. So I started to just, every conversation, like when I was getting objections or whatever it might be, I realized, like, these people just have sunglasses on. Like, they are not seeing what I'm saying fully. And so I had to learn how to delicately help take the sunglasses off, where I was like, oh, we're not actually talking about this situation. We're talking about something deeper, and let's go to the deeper thing. This has been, I think, the key in me being able to build an international business, to be able to lead now hundreds of people doing similar things as myself, and to help thousands of people with their health. It's because I've learned how to connect with another soul on a heart level, not on the mind level, but on the heart level. And it makes a massive difference in business.
Like I said, the only words I can say are inspiring and, very fascinating. And you use these tools to, help you create happiness again in your life, and you recovered from this. So you also wrote a book, which we'll get to at the end, but tell us how you speak and you do a lot of work. Tell us more about that and how people can get involved and, learn about it.
Yeah, I'd say, connecting on social media is always a wonderful thing. I show up there often. I love connecting with people and helping in whatever ways I can. I talk a lot about post-traumatic growth, because I think oftentimes in our society, we watch people have challenges or have obstacles, and oftentimes we fall into this victim mentality. They do, and then we kind of nurture it. We say, oh yeah, you didn't deserve that, and that kind of thing. And I actually don't think it's helpful. I think it's very disempowering. And I think people need to realize obstacles and challenges are there because life is trying to wake you up to the things that you need to work on within. And you're going to keep running your head into the same wall, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder until you realize the lesson you're supposed to learn, right? You're being triggered. The trigger is the teacher. It's supposed to be helping you see, like, oh, this belief is not serving me. Oh, I need to go deal with this so I can actually open up to the next level of my life. And also to teach you the strengths and the capacities you have within. Like, if life is easy and you're never pushed, it's kind of like the gym. Like, we go to the gym to break down muscle so that it can rebuild stronger. Well, life, it breaks us down mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Why? So that we can become more resilient, so that we can realize the capabilities that we can have, so that all of this can get stronger. You will get more confident. You will understand yourself on such a deep level, and that self-awareness is going to allow you to open up in a massive way. And so this is what I love to talk about. This is where I love helping people just see this. On my social media, you hear me talking about it all the time. And, I do different practices. So I'm a facilitator in Yoga Nidra. It's a guided meditation because people need to remove the mind. Okay. The mind is the problem. And when we can get it out of the way, we can work. I study a lot of yogic philosophy. We can work with the body-mind complex. We can work getting, to the space beyond the mind. And so I do a lot of Yoga Nidra guided meditations. I do yoga therapy, which again, removes the mind and helps the body to come into itself and release things that are being held energetic. Massive healings that happen for people. And I absolutely love teaching others about this. And, primarily I'm still very heavily involved in my work with the redox signaling and guiding people in that, whether it's because they want to start a business, because they like that I've created a lifestyle where I can live where I want. I work the hours I want. If I were to have another injury, my business is going to continue, right? I've been able to create all these things that we dream of. And for me, it was the network marketing model that allowed it. And I'm not here to tell you it's easy, right? It takes time, it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight, but when you have the right people in place, a very unique technology, you have the right coaching, so much can open up for you. So I work a lot now helping people kind of create the plan B that maybe can then become plan A. And it's a true blessing.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Really fascinating conversation about the quantum healing. I think the most recent was with Deepak Chopra talking about, healing on the quantum level, which is really fascinating, just to learn about and hear about. And then, like I said, for all the listeners out there, Danielle's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Be sure to follow her. Her website will be in the links, in the resources, in the show notes. And with that, let's thank Danielle for a fascinating, inspiring discussion about healing, trauma, recovery, resiliency, and ultimately meaning and success. So thanks so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.